February 14th, 2023 meeting of the Dover Area School Board, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Allman, could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton. Here. Mr. Deschel.
Here.
Mr. Eifert.
Here.
Mr. Emig.
Here.
Mrs. Herman.
Here.
Mrs. Meese.
Here.
Mr. Rothhauser.
Here.
Mrs. Whitmer.
Here.
Mr. Wolverton.
Here.
9 present.
Okay, thank you. First, we have our public comment period. This is a 30-minute period for items on or off of the agenda, 3 minutes per speaker. We do have one person that has registered in advance to speak, so they will go first, and that is Mrs. Katrina Rothrock. If you could state your name and address for the record then, please. Thank
Katrina Rothrock, 6836 Pleasant View Drive, Thomasville, PA, 17364. Good evening. My name is Katrina Rothrock. I'm co-president of DAEA. Board Policy 11, Principles of Governance and Leadership, states that the school directors will collectively and individually promote public education as a keystone of democracy and champion public education by engaging members of local, state, and federal legislative bodies. During a recent school board meeting, the following comments have been made. I don't have faith in the public school system, and when I hear that there are things going to be taught to my children in the kindergarten classroom that is not for kindergarten ears, these statements have raised concerns among the staff of Dover. They do not promote or champion public education, as Board Policy 11 states school directors will do. The Dover Area School District is made up of families, support staff, professional staff administrators, and businesses who collectively have the best interest of our whole student body at heart. There is no place for individual agendas, just the education of the next generation of the Dover community. Educators do our best to make sure that every student is seen, heard, and supported. We don't choose who shows up in our classrooms or how prepared they are to learn. Educators do, however, have the responsibility to provide students with what they need to learn. We advocate for these resources for our students at the local, state, and federal level. Another board member appeared to recognize that one of the statements made was unsubstantiated and said, I think we need to be careful about throwing out there in our community that there are things being taught in our schools that are not. Teachers, counselors, nurses, principals, secretaries, paraprofessionals, cooks, cashiers, custodians, maintenance staff, and others are here to serve all the children from the Dover community. Students who have coats, students who need coats, students who get breakfast at home, students who need breakfast at school, students with parents, students without parents, students with mental health needs, students that don't have mental health needs. Students arrive at our door for every walk of life. Students and their needs are the focus of our service to this community and the community's future. Educators take great offense to the statement that teachers are grooming our students. What we do is wake up every day, walk into the school building, in many cases before the sun comes up, and do the best we can to provide for the future generation of Dover. According to Dr. John Hattie, the relationships teachers share with their students has a greater effect on their academic growth than their socioeconomic status, professional development, class sizes, or any type of special programs that we may teach. We show up and we're present every day, trying to understand how our students feel and think to be able to provide them with what they need to grow. There are many things out of our control, but we attempt to make a positive difference in the lives of every student every day. Baseless accusations do nothing to keep us focused on improving the future of the Dover community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rothrock. Okay, anybody else? Okay, with that, we will move into our presentations. First, we have National CTE Month. Mr. Benton.
Good evening, everyone. February is National CTE Month, and I just wanted to give you a brief update. And I also have 2 students, one that's a current junior, one that is a graduate, just to give you an update of what they're doing in their CTE furthering their education. Okay. CTE, just a little bit of education, stands for Career and Technical Education. It's skills-based training in a particular area of study, and we have 9 different programs here at Dover. The area of studies are directly related to occupations that are identified and in demand or high priority by the PA Department of Labor and Industry. Students can obtain both industry-specific certification and credentials. Students can earn post-secondary credits with every program. There are some type of articulation agreement to every program for college credits. Dover students in our system use the scope and sequence through electives to complete our programs. Whoop. Some CTE terminology that you may hear while you're sitting on the board. We have an approved program evaluation, which comes every 5 years, where the Department of Ed will come in and evaluate each program. They will evaluate our counselors and how they're helping with career and tech ed, and look at the directors and making sure that we are upholding the laws for career and tech ed. We also have Perkins audits, which are roughly 5 years rotation every 5 years. We have completer students. Completer students are students that take the end of program NOCTI exam, which means they have completed all the task lists to be able to take the NOCTI exam, which is also a transcript and a industry credential. We have students that are also called concentrator students. They are students who do not meet the 50+% of program hours to be able to take the NOCTI exam, or nor do they meet all the task lists items. So a lot of that happens with our seniors. They on a program where they may need 6 to 7 classes, they may get 3 classes in their senior year, and that allows them to be concentrator students in the career and technical field. We have CIP codes, which stands for Certified Instructional Program. Each one of our programs is identified through a CIP code at the state level, which also correlates to standard occupations that are in the labor force. NOCTI exams. They are standardized exams, whether they're PA or national, with 2 different parts. There's a knowledge part, which range between, depending on program, 180 to 200 questions. But every NOCTI exam also has a practical part where students will have to demonstrate their skills that they learn in their specific programs on the second half. What's unique about the NOCTI exam versus any of our other standardized tests, there's 2 parts. Your final scoring goes by the lowest score. So you may be advanced and competent, which is proficient in PSSA and Keystone terms. The overall students' scores are competent. So it goes by the lowest. If a student is advanced in knowledge, but let's say basic in the practical side, their overall score is basic. So for a student to be advanced, which 60% of our students last year were, they had to be advanced both in knowledge and on the practical side of the exam. The other thing that we have with all our CTE programs are what we call OAC meetings, Occupational Advisory Committees. These are program-specific advisory committees that are held twice a year, and they are directly our bridge to our business partners out in our community and in the region. So they come and advise us on what we need to do with our curriculum to stay abreast of everything in our labor fields. The last, the LAC is local advisory. That's a special committee for me to help direct me as a director to make sure that our programs are meeting the workforce development needs in the Dover area and greater York area. The last thing is our CTSOs, which stands for Career and Technical Students Organizations. To have an approved program, you also have the recognized CTSO to go along with that. So at Dover, we have actually 3 of them: FFA, DECA, and Skills USA. Some funding. We get an average daily attendance funding for all CTE. That comes from states. That's above the normal reimbursement that we get for the state. We also receive Perkins 5 funding, which is federal. We also receive equipment grant funding, which is state. We also receive PA SMART grants, which is workforce development, which is state. PA Farm Bill grant, which is state. And we also have right now two tuition students that are coming in from another school to take our career and technical. So we get funding from them. Some of our programs, we have agriculture. We have 3 different agriculture programs. We have ag mechanics and horticulture, which are for juniors and seniors. And then we have ag general, which is a 4-year. That's our only 4-year program where students may start that their freshman year. The industry certifications that these students may earn outside of the NOCTI exam are OSHA 30 and Safe Tractor and Machinery. In the fall semester, we had 43 students earn OSHA 30 certification. And just to put that in perspective, what does that mean for one of our local businesses? An OSHA 30 for our local business to train that person to get that industry is about $2,000 to $2,500 that the local business is saving on that. We have 3 business programs: accounting, business office management, and marketing. Accounting is a 3-year program starting our sophomore year. Business office management, marketing both start in their junior years. And the industry credential is Microsoft Pro, which is a combination of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. It's the first level Microsoft industry credential that a student may earn. And in the fall, we had 14 students that earned those certifications. We have in arts, audiovisual technology communication is commercial and advertising art. That is a 3-year program, and the 3 industry credentials there is Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop. We had 1 student that earned that this fall. On the STEM side, we have engineering technology, which is starts in the sophomore year. We have OSHA 30, Autodesk for AutoCAD, and just recently we just signed made a partnership with the Manufacturers Association that we are now state-approved pre-apprenticeship program certification. Dover students can, by completing their coursework and take the NOCTI, will earn the pre-apprenticeship for the Manufacturers Association. So if they get hired by, let's say, General Machine Works, where one of our students is co-oping and is looking to be hired, he has his pre-apprenticeship. He automatically gets accepted into the Manufacturers Association apprenticeship program. There's no evaluation for him. He automatically goes because he has that. So in the 22-23 school year, we will have 4 students that will complete that pre-apprenticeship program. Computer technology is our last program, which is a 3-year program, and this has the most industry credentials opportunities in IT fundamentals, Network Pro, PC Pro, Routing and Switching Pro, Security Pro. In the fall, we had 15 students that earned a variety of these certifications, and we have 1 student that has earned all of those so far. Some of the articulation and college credits. Like I said, being a state-approved program, there's collegetransfer.net. The state has set up articulation with post-secondary schools. The minimum credits are 9, that when the student chooses to go to that post-secondary school, once they finish their first semester, they will receive the next 9 credits at no cost. We do have an articulation agreement with HAC, Delaware Valley, and then Penn College. We actually have a dual enrollment class where it's college and the high school, where our teachers are actually teaching the college courses. And then we also have Project Lead the Way, which is our engineering curriculum, which is nationally recognized. It can be done as for credits throughout the country, or it will give advanced placement in the application process for students that want to go into engineering programs. Since last January of 22, These are the partnerships that we've formed with companies and also given tours to all these individuals. The most recent one was the PA Petroleum Association. They are looking for our students there's many careers, especially in the HVAC world, industry. They are actually a training center now for HVAC on their apprenticeship. There's the Manufacturers Association, Mantech, CareerLink, Explore York, Frey Ecosystem, the Lyft Corporation, CBRE at Starbucks, CTE Incorporated, General Machine Works, Walton Company, Stewart Company, CB Construction, Prinostat, Peach Bottom Power Plant, Pomeroy Business Solutions, AIS, TC Backer, and I think which is really a credit to us, we have the following school districts that have come to look at our career and tech ed to help them get started with at least one or two programs. That would be Redline, Gettysburg, West Shore, Eastern York, Susquehannock. And we've also had PSU STEM Outreach would like to partner with us based on what we're doing at our high school and our STEM program K-12. Next thing I'd like to talk about is a little bit about our co-curricular student organizations. When we say co-curricular, these organizations, not only are they after school, but we use the material inside with our current curriculum that we may teach in the classrooms. So that's why it's stated co-curricular versus extracurricular. And by state regulations, it has to be co-curricular. We are not allowed to have it just extra because all three of these organizations have materials that we are teaching on leadership, technical skills within our courses, and that's relevant in our curriculum writing that we are doing. DECA, just to give you a little bit of a highlight, we had Ryan's Hope, where you heard some of our students get up in the past month, talk about their charity project and the money that they raised. They also have just received the International Chapter Campaign winner, which is a Thrive level, which is the highest level at the international, and we're one of 4 chapters in PA for that. We also have the International Membership Campaign, where it's the achievement level. It's the second highest for the number of members. And by the way, we have 108 members in this chapter. And we're one of 27 chapters in PA to achieve this. We have a top tier chapter status in the state at the state level. And yesterday we received notice that for our school-based enterprise, the Red Zone, we received gold level status for the 5th year in a row. And we are only one of 4 schools in the state that have done that so far. FFA, major events, accomplishments. We did receive a PA Farm Bill grant to start beginning of March. The permit has just went to the township, but we're going to be building a utility shed along with the PA Farm grant. You can see the shed there for our tractor that we have to store it, and for our flatbed trailer that was done all by grant money. There is a 10 by 10 lockable storage space for students' projects when they bring in, especially on the small engine side, so it's not cluttering the shop so much. This will be placed outside, inside the containment of the fence out by our shops. And we're also received some funds from the Joel Grimm Memorial. Joel Grimm was in the 1980s graduate of Dover, and he passed away in November. So any funds that was given to him and his family, they have donated it to our chapter, and we will be putting a memorial on the side of the shed for him. And he was a FFA member while he was here in school. We also have, just to inform the board, the National FFA Week will be starting in 2 weeks, and the luncheon that you all should have received an email from Mr. Bowen will be February 23rd. If you can put that on your calendar, try to stop in. It's always a good time to interact with the students. We also have our second annual FFA Day, March 25th, at the high school. That'll be all day on Saturday. And we also have this year, which is the fifth in Dover history and the first since 2000, a state FFA officer. And you're going to hear from that person in a little bit. Our last student organization is Skills USA. One of the major accomplishments is we have a submarine team competition that will be in Bethesda, Maryland at the Navy base come in June. They will be promoting, looking for donations to help offset the cost of going to that competition. So our students actually build their own submersible submarine. It is not airtight. One of the things that our students will get, and there's 10 students, they will all get scuba certified to go into the pool. And it's a mile-long pool that they will actually travel. We competed in it back in 19. They haven't had it since COVID, but it's an international submarine competition. Last time in 2019, we were one of 3 high schools. There was 27 college teams that our high school students are competing, and it's engineering programs from all over the country that come in and compete at that level. The other thing, we have a Central Region Leadership Conference officer this year. That was Lexi Wells. And Lexi is also starting her candidate as a state officer. So she's a junior. And at Skills, their state officer is during their senior year. So she's starting the process of looking at her leadership abilities and trying to become a state officer, which will be the first for Dover. And by her being a Central Region Leadership Conference officer, that was a first for Dover, considering we've only had, I think it was 2017, 2018, since we started Skills. So it is growing. And it's really amazing to watch our students grow in their leadership abilities. So I'm going to ask Lexi to come up at this time. She's a current 11th grade student in our Commercial and Advertising Art program. She's a current Skills USA officer. She was also the one of 4 leadership conference officer, and she's a candidate. And if you notice of her picture there, if you see that lapel pin, that was for the Central PA Leadership Conference. Lexi designed that, and her design was chosen for the whole conference. And at this time, I'm going to let Lexi speak on her candidacy.
Good evening, everyone. I joined Skills USA after joining one of our CTE programs, Commercial and Advertising Arts. Not knowing what Skills USA, I decided to join, which I'm glad I did. It's gotten me ready for the workforce using the Skills USA framework, which includes professional skills, workplace skills, and technical skills grounded in academics, as well as it has changed me as a person in general. I've been in Skills USA for 2 years now. And for the 2 years now, I have learned how to get students ready for the professional areas. At the Central Region Conference, I had the opportunity to work alongside the other conference officers and the current state officers to teach students about teamwork and leadership. For example, we had a tricycle race, which involved teamwork and communication. We had to work together as a team to get our person to the finish line first. Skills USA is extremely important to me because I feel like students wanting to go into a STEM career should be able to go straight into it without going into college if they don't want to. I am running for Pennsylvania State Officer and would be honored to be Dover's first student to serve in this leadership role. Meeting other students at the conference, at the Central Region Conference, has led me to run for state office. I have learned a lot from all of these experiences at the Central Region Conference and through Skills USA. I wanted to thank you for allowing me to talk about my experience with Skills USA and about why I'm running for state officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Lexi. By the way, she will be at the state conference in late April, and that's when she'll do all her candidacy and find out if she becomes a state officer. The last student highlight we have is a 2002 Dover graduate who was in our engineering program that completed, plus NHS. She is between 2019 and 22, she was a Dover FFA chapter officer, treasurer, and vice president. And 22-23, she's the 5th Dover State PA officer as secretary, and she's also a national FFA Speak Ag pioneer, and in the fall of 23, she'll be attending Kentucky University for ag engineering. And at this time, I'd like to introduce you, Grace Benton, to talk to you about her experience as a state officer and representing Dover.
Hello and good evening. I'm very happy to stand before you today and say how proud I am to come to Dover and represent you guys across the state. I decided to run for state office because I'm a proud product of agriculture education. I would not be where I am today without it. The freshman me was not the same person that graduated. FFA gave me life skills that I would have not have gotten otherwise. I was so happy to call FFA my home throughout high school. It gave me a family, and it gave me a passion. As I was able to have control of my education in high school, I was a completer in our engineering program, but at the same time, I was still able to take agriculture education classrooms where I got hands-on experiences that I could then go and compete in FFA. I thank you for your support of our FFA program, and I highly recommend all of you come to the luncheon on February 23rd, as we have some amazing catfish that all of our students love giving to you guys each year, and thanking you for your support of our program. So in June, I graduated on a Saturday, and on Tuesday, I went to our state convention, and I went through an intense interview process to then be elected out of 19 people to a group of 7 individuals to represent our over 14,000 members throughout the state. As a PA FFA state officer, I've gone through multiple different things. I've gotten training, and I've been proud to represent us at our Pennsylvania Association, Agriculture Educators Association, in the summer at the conference. I have currently visited 40 schools throughout the state, spending the whole day with those students and getting to be a part of their FFA family and taking on leadership education workshops for them to learn a little bit about communication, confidence, agriculture careers, and the surprising amount of agriculture that is behind our fast food when we order it. I was also proud to be at the farm show for 11 whole days, and luckily I did not get sick from it. We held our Pennsylvania Midwinter Conference convention at the farm show in the large arena, where there was a record number of 8,000 people. It was very amazing to stand on that stage in front of our members and see the arena packed from floor to ceiling all around. There, we were able to hand out 410 Keystone State degrees, which is the highest degree, or as I like to explain it, as a level. If you see right here, this is my charm that I'm wearing. We handed out 410 of them. We also got the privilege of handing out 371 first-year jackets. So 371 of our first-year members did not have the financial burden of paying for their jacket, and they got it free at our Midwinter Convention. And it always is heartwarming to see them put on that jacket for the first time and knowing they are going to have the amazing experience of getting to be a part of this family and organization. At that conference, it was one day, and then we were also able to hold our first weekend of our ACES conference, which I was proud to see our Dover members there, and there was a bunch of us there, so I was glad to see the turnout from our chapter. And it's over, we've held the conference 3 weekends. It's the same conference over 3 weekends, and we also have a record number of over 1,900 people registered for this conference. We have a little bit of, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do for next year? Because there's way too many people, which is a good problem to have. And at this conference, we do the same relatively thing of leadership workshops, just on different topics to give these students, allow them to meet other people from across the state and get to have some social time with them as we get to visit them and get to see them after we just had our chapter visits with them. Then in the March, we will hold another conference called State Legislative Leadership Conference, where our members get to learn how to advocate for this organization and for things they are passionate about. And we actually put them through the process that our representatives go through to pass a bill. So they know how their government works in their state. And then they also get to have a breakfast with our representatives and senators within the state on the last day of the conference. And then in June, we will hold the state convention, where I will unfortunately retire and pass the bucket on to our next person who will take my position. As I am giving a year's service. I am not paid to do this, is why we call it a year's service. Now, I don't have to cover any of my costs. My costs are covered for me. Since I am taking a gap year from my education, because I was able to be a completer in our engineering while combining my passion for agriculture, I will be attending the University of Kentucky for agriculture engineering and being able to combine both those passions for math and problem solving with agriculture combined. I've also gotten to have some really cool experiences, like working and attending the governor's inauguration and getting to walk him around the farm show as he was governor-elect at the time, and getting to meet some really influential people across the state and the nation as our national convention that was held in October. My favorite part about FFA is that we're a student-led organization, and I served as one of our delegates out of 471 delegates at the national convention that were changing whatever we wanted to be changed in this organization as the students felt fit. And I was proud to represent Pennsylvania and Dover at that conference and convention, where over 69,000 members attended, and that we were making decisions to impact over 800,000 members nationwide, along with Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here and speak in front of you guys. And I'd just like to say how proud I am to come from this community and be a product of Dover area education. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for anything that you just heard? All right.
I just want to say, how did she remember all that? That was fabulous. Oh my God. Now, what did not look down once at a paper? I think, oh my God.
So just a little tidbit I get to see from home. All her speeches, FFA prouds themselves on memorizing every speech. So she has gotten really good at public speaking and memorizing. So, okay. Thank you.
Lexi and Grace, thank you very much for your time tonight. We really appreciate your presentations to us. Thank you. Okay, next on our presentation list is the comprehensive plan. Dr. Houck.
All right, so I have a very interesting development to share with you regarding the comprehensive plan. So this was supposed to be the day when I present to you the entire plan and put it out for public review, and then you were to approve it in March so that I could turn it in by March 31st. 2 weeks ago, I received word that they are postponing that till October because they are adding some new requirements that I'm going to be required to put into the plan. I don't know what those requirements are yet, and when I do, I will be sure to share them with you. But I would like to share with you is what I have so far. So this is not the complete plan. This is really an overview to kind of update you on the biggest chunks of this plan. So we have written a new mission and vision statement. Our mission is to educate, empower, and inspire all students to become contributing citizens in an ever-changing world. And our vision statement is that DASD students will achieve success by engaging in rigorous and relevant instruction, exploring a broad range of opportunities, and discovering unique pathways to a productive future through the supportive collaboration of the entire school community. This was written in collaboration with the steering committee, which is teachers, community members, parents, and board members. So the first thing that we did when embarking on writing the comprehensive plan is we analyzed the strengths and the challenges of our district. We looked at data, every piece of data that we could gather. and determined, and this was with a team of about 40 people. And then from there, we established what we consider to be our priorities for this comprehensive plan. So I gathered together, I know you can't read this and you don't need to, but this is a document that listed all of the strengths that we saw in our data and all of the challenges that we saw in our data. And each member of the committee put a check where they considered those to be priority. These are the strengths that we really need to focus on to capitalize on, and these are the challenges that we need to focus on in our comprehensive plan. So here are the strengths that the majority, it was a very democratic process, so the majority chose these as our strengths. The English language arts is consistently above the state average in most grades and in most buildings. The basic and below basics, the students who scored basic and below basic, they were generally blue and green in math. And what that means is that they are showing growth. So PVAS is a measure, and when they score blue or green, it means that although they haven't scored proficient, we are growing them as a district. Our PSSA science scores are significantly better than language arts and math, and that's a strength in science, and they are significantly above the state average. Our high school graduation rate is also above the state average, and we are given interim goals. The state gives us goals every year that we're supposed to meet, and we are exceeding the goal that we have for our high school graduation rate. Our industry-based learning, that's what you just heard. Those are our CTE, NOCTI programs. Our score is higher than the state average and has also exceeded the standard that we are given. So we are doing very well in that area. And overall, our economically disadvantaged students made growth similar to the all-student group. And you don't see that often. Sometimes our economically disadvantaged students don't grow as much as our all-student group. In our district, they are. So we're growing those students as well. And so here are the challenges that the steering committee chose. The percent proficient and advanced in language arts in grades 3, 4, 5, and 6 still remain below pre-pandemic levels. So we have not quite caught up to where we were before the pandemic. The proficient and advanced groups in math, not all of them met the growth standards. So some of them didn't grow as much as we wanted them to. The overall proficiency levels in math are lower than language arts or science, so our math scores are just lower. They are all across the state, but that's still a challenge for us, right? Our rigorous courses of study score, that's at the high school, is below the state average. That is the percentage of kids who take AP, college, and the high school dual enrollment. So we want to increase that, and it has been declining since 2021. Our growth for students with disabilities, those are students that have IEPs, are below the all-student group in 5th grade and in 6th grade math, and in 4th grade and in 6th grade language arts. So what that means is those students aren't showing the same growth that the rest of the all students is showing. So we want to take a look at that. The frequent turnover, this comes from the steering committee. Almost every one of them mentioned that the frequent turnover in district administration has resulted in inconsistency and a lack of follow-through in some of the initiatives that the district puts forth. And that the curriculum is incomplete and not guaranteed and viable. Guaranteed means that students, no matter what classroom they're in, no matter what building they're in, they're guaranteed the same quality of standards and instruction. Viable means that the curriculum is written that we can actually teach it in the amount of time that we have. So do we have a curriculum that can be taught in the 9 months that we're in school? We don't have that. If you look at our curriculum on the website, it is very incomplete, which is why we've been spending all year writing curriculum. So here are the priorities that we've established based on those strengths and challenges. Number one, the district needs a comprehensive literacy plan. That means a document that's going to guide instruction and ensure that kids are growing from early years to graduation in their literacy skills. So that is a plan. And remember, this comprehensive plan is a 3-year plan. So in the next 3 years, we're going to be working on that literacy plan. What does literacy instruction look like K to 12? Number two, we need to start paying attention to math. And that's a problem in almost every district I've ever worked in, that math has, for whatever reason, has always taken a back seat to reading and writing. But we need to bring some attention to math in order to increase student achievement. And I'll talk to you about how we're going to do that. The third one is that we're going to commit to high standards of teaching and learning. So we will develop a campaign to educate students and parents, to encourage students to take AP classes, to participate in dual enrollment, and our CTE credential programs, because they count also as rigorous courses of study. And then the fourth one is the district lacks a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So we will develop a curriculum framework and use the framework to ensure that the curriculum is guaranteed and viable. So those are our 4 priorities. So just digging a little bit deeper, for a comprehensive literacy plan, what we're expecting from this plan is high quality instruction in English language arts in the elementary school. The PDE is requiring us to train teachers in structured literacy, which is the science of reading. We don't need to get into all of that, but it is a way to teach reading to young kids. And we don't have a consistent writing program in this district. So we teach writing, but it's not taught consistently, and we're going to work on creating a writing program that's outlined in this literacy plan so that we know that writing is being taught consistently and pervasively. At the secondary level, middle school and high school, we're going to be training teachers in how to use reading and writing across the curriculum. So how are kids reading and writing in their science classes, reading and writing in their social studies classes, and different strategies to incorporate. And then, of course, media literacy will be all through the plan, and that's how to, discern fact from fiction in websites, and just that whole literacy in terms of media. So for early literacy, our goal is to meet the PA Keystone interim targets for English language arts. So again, every year they give us a target for the number of kids that are supposed to be proficient and advanced. We want to be able to meet that target every year. So we're going to create a literacy plan, and all ELA teachers and support staff will participate in professional development that is aligned to the science of reading. Here's what we expect, if our expected output. The principals are required to do at least 5 walkthroughs every single week. So those walkthroughs will start to document a shift in instructional practices in literacy. So when we teach our teachers what we want literacy to look like, we're going to be looking for that in the walkthroughs. We're going to do some data analysis using benchmark and diagnostic assessments so that we can monitor how well our kids are doing. What we're hoping to see is increases in the number of students scoring on grade level in reading and writing. And of course, we hope that our PSSAs will show an increase in the percentage of students who score proficient or advanced. So that's early literacy. We will make sure that our principals, our reading specialists, and our interventionists, they will be leading the training. So we make sure that they get trained. We're going to conduct walkthroughs to ensure that the programs that we are currently using are done with fidelity, and that ELA teachers will continue to participate in training in small group instruction. Principals will do walkthroughs and formal observations to ensure that small group instruction is being practiced. Measurable goal 2 is process writing. We're going to develop a writing program as part of the literacy plan, and all teachers will receive explicit instruction in writing and how to incorporate that into language arts. Every student will produce formal writing pieces each year, and a formal writing piece means that you start with a plan, you create a first draft, you revise it, you edit it, and then you create a final copy. That's the full formal writing piece. And student work protocols, what that means is that teachers will be getting together with samples of writing and looking at them together, noting what our strengths and weaknesses are, giving them scores to help improve the writing across the district. So teachers will be piloting next year. I will be presenting to you in an upcoming board meeting a program that we would like to pilot. So you will be seeing that, and you will be approving that, approving for us to pilot a program. And we are making sure that that core program includes a strong writing component. And then, of course, teachers will participate in training to integrate process writing into the language arts block. Third goal is reading and writing across the curriculum. Teachers in grades 6 to 12 will be trained in best practices to integrate reading and writing into their classes. We are expecting that students will use academic reading strategies and participate in academic writing. Reading a science text is not the same as reading a novel. There are different skills that are associated with that. So we need to teach the kids the skills to read a science book, a social studies book. And then, of course, academic writing is different than creative writing. And again, we'll be using walkthroughs and writing samples to determine whether it's working or not. Teachers will be trained in academic reading, and teachers will be trained in academic writing. Our priority 2 is math, bringing attention to teaching and learning. I have 2 major initiatives with math. Number 1 is we need to get teachers talking about math. Right now, we don't have a very strong system for collaboration. Teachers that get together that teach the same content, they're talking about how they're teaching it. So we're going to provide them with opportunities for structured collaborative conversations around math. And structured means they'll be trained how to have these conversations. And then the most important thing is we need a system for math intervention. We have a lot of reading intervention. We have reading specialists. We have reading groups. We don't have a system for math intervention yet. So we're going to be developing that through this comprehensive plan. So there's a math collaboration around mathematics. I think I already explained that to you. Co-planning, common understanding of the math concepts that are presented, and then an item analysis of common assessments. So they're going to get together, look at their assessments, talk about what kids did well and didn't do well. Horizontal and vertical teams to share best practices. Again, we need to develop common assessments. Every 4th grader should be taking the same unit assessment so that we can determine what their strengths and areas of intervention are. And the district is going to provide teachers with the time and the means to have those collaborative conversations. We're going to develop those common assessments, and then we're going to develop protocols for analyzing those common assessments. And then math intervention. I'm going to go a little quickly on these slides because I think I've already explained them, but we're going to create a system for math intervention for K to 5. We use assessments to determine which kids need intervention. We are hoping that we will see an increase in the number of students who are mastering grade level standards in math. We're hoping that it'll show an increase in the percentage of students who score proficient or advanced in math, and student groups will meet or exceed the growth standard. So we're basically just hoping that we start seeing some improvement in our math scores. Principals and math teachers, we're going to do a deep dive in what our current data is, what are our strengths and challenges, what data can we analyze to identify students that need intervention, and then we need to provide them with intervention. Priority 3, committing to high standards of teaching and learning. We are going to develop a campaign to educate our parents, to educate our students about the opportunities that they have for rigorous courses. So what we hope to do is to meet or exceed the statewide average for the percentage of students that are enrolled in rigorous courses of studies. And how will we do that? Well, we need to encourage students to take AP courses, to take the AP exam, to participate in dual enrollment, to take college and high school courses, and to take CTE credential courses. So we are already developing communication materials for parents, having meetings to help to increase their awareness of the advanced course options. We're using a matrix to recruit students. PVAS does give us projections. What is the probability that your student will be successful in AP Calc? And if they have a high probability of being successful, we're going to recruit them. Hey, well, why don't you come take AP Calc? I think you're going to do really well in it. And then we are going down to the middle school because we need to start talking to the high-achieving students at the middle school. They need to know what those opportunities are when they get to high school. So we'll have them meet with a supportive adult to develop a plan for high school coursework that focuses on those advanced courses and those opportunities. Priority 4 is an easy one. I'm going to go through this one quickly because we need a curriculum. We need a curriculum that's guaranteed, and we need a curriculum that's viable. So we have been working on that for every professional development day that we've had so far. I will soon be ready to share with you and to have you approve that curriculum. I will have you approve the CUDs, the know, understands, and do's, and then when the unit maps are done, I will show those to you as well. So we're almost there, right? So the district will have a written curriculum. We will develop common assessments, and I'm going to write a curriculum guidebook, and that's going to document how we do curriculum here at Dover. No such document exists right now. So what is our routine? What is our review process? So that will be documented. We're going to develop a curriculum framework. Everything will be written and posted on the district websites for teachers to access, for parents to access, and community members. So everyone will be able to see exactly what we are teaching in our classrooms. We will have a curriculum review cycle so that we know how often we need to review curriculum. And again, we're going to develop common assessments to ensure that what's in the curriculum is actually being taught and assessed. So this is where there's the new interesting development. So there are other requirements that are supposed to go into the professional development plan, things that I'm going to be required to train my teachers in. Right now, we do have a requirement that teachers receive a yearly training on trauma-informed care, and that's how to work with students who have experienced trauma in their lives. And then, of course, suicide prevention and bullying prevention. We also have to train teachers once every 3 years in that. So that's also going to be in the plan. What are the new requirements? I don't know. What I do know is that I have a new requirement for the professional development plan, so they're going to give me more required trainings for teachers. They're going to tell me what those topics are and exactly what I have to put in, and also for the induction plan. So when I get those, I did get a webinar today. I have not had time to digest it, but when I do, I will be presenting those to you and including those into the plan. So questions about that?
I just wanted to say one thing that I was kind of shocked about. When I retired 7 years ago, we had a writing program. The children had to produce 4 samples a year and had to take it from beginning to end. So where is it? And I just wonder if maybe this doesn't have something to do with the remark that was made about constant changes in administration and how things just kind of go away, and then the new guy comes in and starts things all over. And we even wrote curriculum all the time. We were always writing curriculum.
Your guess is as good as mine. Well, your guess is better than mine, because we don't have it now, so that's what we're working on.
How long?
I'm sorry.
So when you say we don't have curriculum, is that just in the high school, or what grades don't we have curriculum?
So if you look on our website, you'll see what we don't have. I think we're missing science and social studies in some of our grades.
Okay.
I also think that the curriculum that we do have isn't as complete as it should be. All they have is a K, U, and a D. I don't want to go into all the details other than to say.
Training component,
I
the
don't
checks
think,
and balances.
to me, it's not of the quality
Okay.
that I would expect.
Okay.
So we're going to improve the quality of all of it and then have it more complete and more detailed.
One of the things that you mentioned was the idea of giving 4th graders a math test. The reason I bring that up is I've had parents who've confronted me with the idea that when their child is moved from, say, Live Elementary to Dover, they are in totally different settings in regards to what they're studying, and especially math. So I like the idea that you're developing a curriculum that can be used across the district. So I think parents are going to like the idea of that.
And we've gotten, sorry to interrupt if you were done. We've gotten 4th grade and 5th grade, like all of the teachers have looked at it vertically too. So that 2nd grade makes sure it aligns with what 3rd grade's expecting with what 4th grade's expecting. This is going to be ongoing, like this doesn't happen overnight. So I'll have a written curriculum, but we're going to continue to look at it and tweak it and improve it all the time.
How do the teachers get trained? Like the curriculum that you choose, does it come with that training, or is that something?
Well,
you have to
we're
create?
writing our own curriculum. We're not choosing
Okay.
it, right? So except for the core reading program, which I will be presenting to you as a pilot, yes, the company who produces the program will come and give them training. Yep. But the rest of it, I will send my reading specialist to Science of Reading training. I will go and we will train ourselves. It's called a train the trainer model. I train the trainers and then they come and repeat that. And we work with the IU. They provide training for teachers as well.
Yeah, like
So-
how do you know how much is enough, training wise? Is that hard to figure out?
It's not. The teachers tell us.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They tell us when they need more or if they feel good about what they're doing.
Rena, I like the one thing I saw on the early slide. It had to do with the economically disadvantaged students of ours. What is the definition of an economically disadvantaged student? What percentage of our student population is considered economically disadvantaged?
That number is based on the number of students who apply for free and reduced lunch, right?
51%.
Yep. So district-wide, it's 51%. That percentage is a little different in each building, but so with 51% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. I don't know the math beyond that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, budget presentation. Miranda, Kim, and Darcy.
Good evening. I have a few phone numbers memorized, a few passwords, a couple Bible verses. Memorize a whole presentation. I'm just not there yet. I brought my notes. So kudos to, maybe you can teach me someday how to do that. I don't know. But anyway. All right, we're going to show you a little bit where we are at this time in the budget presentation. If you can remember from our January presentation, we basically have a difference in revenue versus expenditures of about $2.8 million. And so that's the hole that we're trying to fill. So most of the presentation is going to be on the expenditure side, and that's why I'm going to be doing a good portion of this. There are, as we go through this, you're going to see where we've made adjustments based on the knowledge that we've had since January. For one example is we now know the number of teachers that are retiring, and so we can adjust salaries by basically lowering the cost from a full paid teacher, a senior teacher, to someone that would be coming in to replace them. There's going to be some reductions. One of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit tonight is just a change in philosophy. As we look through the expenditure accounts, Darcy and myself and Miranda, there were some accounts that we felt that could be lowered. And what the tendency is that you build, and rightly so, each principal, each administrator builds for contingencies. We're going to take some of the change of philosophy a little bit and try to re-educate in the sense that you don't need to budget for every contingency in every building budget or every administrative budget. You budget for what you think is going to happen, and then if there is a contingency that you didn't plan for, that comes out of the budgetary reserve. And then there's going to be actual changes or cuts, which we're going to go over, and those are decisions that you will be much more involved in as far as whether they stay or whether they go. One of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to continue to monitor the 22-23 school year to see how expenditures and revenues come in. Sometimes expenditures go up, sometimes they come down. For example, this past couple weeks, in reviewing things with Kim Kohler, we had more students come in and needed to add a van. So that's something that we continue to adjust. You're going to want to look very closely at Governor Shapiro's presentation on the budget on March 7th. Once he makes that presentation, we'll have a better idea of what subsidy will be coming to Dover area school district. Another factor that will play into the 23-24 budget is teacher labor negotiations, what's presented as far as salaries and benefits. And we'll just continue basically to monitor both of those things. You'll notice number 4 and number 5, this has to happen legally. There has to be a preliminary budget approved in May, and then you have to approve the final budget in June. That's required by state law, but up until that point, we will be continuing, and your administration will be continuing to monitor both the expenditures and revenue as they come in. So we're going to again look at this from an object standpoint. This pie chart you saw last month, but I just wanted to bring it up to show you basically how we're going to attack this evening, and that is by the object code. Salaries and benefits comprises about 63% of your budget. You have technical and professional fees that comprise 5%. 1% are by property services, repairing boilers, things like that. 12%, the light blue, goes towards transportation. That's transportation, insurance, and cyber and charter school tuitions, and APS tuitions, any program that's not run by the IU. Supplies comprise about 4% of your budget, equipment about 3%, and then the last two sections of your pie, the gray and the dark blue, that's your debt service. We're not going to take a look at that because that's pretty much set in stone. This is also a slide where that you saw last time. The yellow number at the very bottom is the target, what we need to fill, $2,767,145. So how are we going to fill that hole? Well, we'll start with salaries. In the far left column, you have some descriptions. The second column, you have the 22-23 budget, and then you have the 23-24 budget. And then the third column are the adjustments that we've made since January. And you can see that we were able to make some rather significant adjustments in both administration and teachers. We found that the director of social work was in the budget, and we took that out because that was a position you had eliminated. And then the retirements, that saves a good portion of money. I think there's 9 teachers that are retiring. And then there's some small adjustments based on hours and educational adjustments and things like that. Then down at the bottom, another large one is in maintenance and custodian. You had a settlement basically for staff, your support staff, and there was a percentage that was in the budget that the difference between that and what was actually settled at, there's some savings there. There's an increase in the aid salaries, and that's due to adding some new special ed aides. Those are required when you have a new IEP, and the IEP requires an aid that you didn't plan for. It affects your budget in a negative way. But the net savings in salaries is $212,600. So that's a good start. Going to objects, there's a savings of about $62,405. That relates specifically to the savings in salaries because you have retirement, which is tied directly to salaries, and you have Social Security tax, which is directed towards salaries. And so if you lower the salary number, you can lower basically the amount in amount in retirement and Social Security. You see a list there of other benefits. Those are all part of contractual negotiations. And again, not something that you can decide tonight, obviously. If you go to Object 300, Object 300 are services that by their very nature require persons or firms with specialized skills and knowledge. So you're talking about dentists, you're talking about doctors, you're talking about tech people. And the other thing that they throw into this category is the tuition that you pay to the IUs. When you send a student to an IU class, that's in the 300 object level. And so you can see at the very top, the biggest number is the special education tuition at $2,200,000 approximately. Utilities, that's your pool testing, your indoor air quality testing. You have 2 SROs that are contracted out. You have some social work. Basically, the social work is some programs that you bought through ESSER funding, Aperture, MedLogic, Check and Connect. They're all, I believe, screening programs that are used by your administration and teachers. You have, in guidance, you have some record retention costs, nurses, you have doctors and dentists, instructional tech. You have basically, this is where all your instructional computer for programs basically are taken care of. Instruction, that's basically translation costs. Instructional computer programming, that's the instructional programs that you use, computer programs that you use for instruction. And the athletic services, we do believe that there can be a cut in that service based on history, going back looking at how much is spent on athletic services. We believe that can be cut by about $3,500. And then, of course, you have legal fees, auditing, and tax collection. And those numbers, the only number there really that we found any savings possibly was in athletic services. And so you have a total savings in this area, not too much. And stop me here at any time if you have any questions. I can take questions on the run. The next object is 400. Those are services purchased to operate and repair, maintain your property. It also includes rent. And so you have basically, you have your disposal services in there, water and sewer, repairs for your water systems, HVAC, boilers, those types of things. Snow plowing is in there. You have some of your custodial staff contracted out because there's vacancies that you have not been able to fill due to the labor shortage that basically our whole country has experienced. The one thing that I did review with Mr. Fluke is that there was $25,000 in the budget for contracted window cleaning. That's something that we feel that we can do in-house and do ourselves. And also lamp recycling. Those you can basically take to the local transfer station without any costs. And then based on historical, looking back over history, we believe that educational services can be reduced by about $3,000. So you have some savings here, close to $30,000 in Object 400. You go to Object 500. This is where you have your transportation, insurance, communications, advertising, tuition to other schools. This would be your charter schools, cyber schools, your APS schools. And based on the new contracted rates for transportation that were agreed upon last month, we have that number in there at $3,325,860. We have van services in there, $248,871. That may have to go up a bit because of some new students that have arrived in Dover Area School District that have some special needs. But we're hoping that that's only for this year, and so we haven't increased those costs at this time. You look at the rest of the services there, the YST, your school technology, $1,050,000. That's set. The cyber school tuition, that's what we believe you'll be paying to cyber school and charter schools. You have foster care, mainstreaming, alternative education programs, York Adams Academy, York bond issue that every school district contributes to. PRI are basically private residential rehab institutions. You have costs there, auto liability. So we didn't really find any savings in the area of Object 500. These costs are all determined by the number of students that go to these programs and the cost of tuition, which Dover has no control over.
Kim, could I ask a question?
Yes,
on
absolutely.
This slide, and maybe Rena could jump in here. The cyber tuition, the $1.9 million, is obviously a huge number for us. Coming out of COVID, are we starting to see any downward trend in the number of students going to cyber? Is it still holding steady or increasing, or what are we seeing with the cyber experience?
What I have seen is that plateauing. It went up during COVID, and it dropped some after COVID, and it seems to be holding steady at that number. So it's to my observation, it seems to have plateaued.
Okay.
Good question. Any others? All right, let's go to Object 600, supplies, books, energy, and food. We do believe that some reductions can be made in the supply and book area, and also in the equipment area. These are the two areas where you have the most control over as far as the budget. We went through elementary books, supplies, and secondary books and supplies, and based on history, we feel that there can be some reductions in both those areas. You have the CTE books and supplies. Mr. Benton talked about this evening. You have maintenance supplies, which includes everything in maintenance and custodial services. Student services supplies, those are all the supplies for services like guidance, nursing, social work. And then the 350,000 cyber, you're probably thinking, well, we just had cyber costs up there. Well, this is for your in-house cyber program, where you're trying to basically attract those students that are in other cyber charter school programs back into the district, because in the long run, we believe that Dover can provide them a better education, and it also definitely will save costs. Looking at athletic supplies, special education needs, you can see some reductions there that we made, 16,000. In athletic supplies, you have, and this is a decision that you're going to have to make. You've been live streaming the past couple of years probably because of COVID and the pandemic. So if you want to discontinue that service, you could save $16,000. So that's a decision that the board would like or should make. Special needs, we think there can be a reduction of 11,000. Again, this is based on history. This isn't cutting anything out of the budget. This is just based on, well, we looked at 22-23, we looked at 21-22, we looked at 20-21, looked at how much you were spending in those areas and believed that they can be reduced a bit. So you have a total savings there of about $59,200.
Okay, Kim, I have a question on this slide then too.
Yes.
Related to the live streaming comment that you brought up.
Yes.
Are we able to tell how many people have been watching it via live stream? I mean, do we have thousands, hundreds, 10 people?
I don't know,
I mean,
Troy.
Are we able to tell?
Okay.
I don't have it, I'll get it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on 600? All right, let's go to 700. 700 is basically its equipment. And Dover, in this year's budget, for 23-24, you have $647,000 budgeted towards equipment. One of them is Meraki cameras. You have, in your security system, you have cameras that, from what I understand, look up and down the hall. With the Meraki cameras, you can get rid of a lot of those cameras because they're like rotating cameras that can move based on movement and other things. So they'd be nice to have. They would probably save replacing some of those other cameras. I don't, but if you didn't want to, if you wanted to postpone that for a year, you could save $50,000 out of this budget. And athletics, there's a V-scan ultrasound unit. That's a piece of new equipment. Some districts have it, some districts don't. One of the things that Dustin and I have talked about are the Chromebooks that we buy for students. Currently, you buy Chrome. If you switch to another brand like Dell, you could save $155,000. And that's over 3 years. You would save, because it's on a 3-year lease. So you would save $155,000 in 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26. The other thing we've talked about is trying to get teachers to a single device. It's nice for them to have, from what I understand, it's nice for them to have the same books the students do, because then they see exactly what the students see. But if they went to a single device, a single laptop that they possess, you could save $54,000. And again, this would be over a 3-year period of time. You'd have the savings in 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26. Again, these are all decisions that the board needs to make. But the savings would be $264,588. I'm not going to go over objects 800 and 900 because that's basically debt service. There's no savings there. So we'll go to the other area that we looked at, which is your ending fund balance. And this is a slide from the presentation in January. And the Dover Area School District has a $17 million fund balance. $3 million of it at the very top there, very top row, you can see Lincoln Benefit Trust. That's not really ours in the sense that it basically that's money that's reserved for Lincoln Benefit Trust or your health care program. The only way you could release that money is if you decide to withdraw from the Lincoln Benefit Trust and go on your own. And that has that would take a great deal of research on Miranda's part to decide whether that's a step that's best for Dover or not. So that leaves you with committed funds and unassigned funds. And that total is $13,865,000, and that represents 19.5% of your total expenditures. Auditors, independent auditors, will recommend that a school district carries between 5 and 10% of your expenditures. And so we do believe that to balance this year's budget, you can use some of your fund balance. The question is how much. Usually what you try to do is tie that to non-recurring expenditures. However, you don't see a lot of, as I went through the objects, you don't see a lot of non-recurring expenditures there. So the next best thing is when you want to use your fund balance is to have it as a phase. Basically, you basically start with a number and then gradually phase it out because it's a one-time revenue source. For example, we're going to recommend you use $1 million of it this year. Next year, then we're going to recommend a slightly less number, and this is sort of what it looks like. In the second column, you basically have the fund balance, $13,865,000. That's what it was in 21-22. The year is on the far right column. And in 22-23, we're expecting a small surplus at this point. So we're expecting the fund balance to land right around 20%. If you use $1 million of your fund balance in 23-24, that would take it down to 18.5. The reason that I have each year less and less is because basically in 24-25, if you use $925,000 of your fund balance, you're going to have to make up that $75,000 difference somehow, because that's less of imagine it as a revenue that's just getting smaller and smaller each year. So the smaller increments that you make, the easier it is for you to find that money somewhere. And so I have it basically stepping down over a 14-year period of time, $75,000 each. Now, we all understand that this isn't going to hold true. You're going to have some years that are better, and you're going to have some years that are worse. And so this is just a plan. That's all it is. But you need a plan if you're going to draw down your fund balance over a period of time. And eventually you can see getting it, or we'd be getting it down to around 6%. Which again, that's where most of your auditors will say, keep your fund balance, your unassigned and assigned fund balance to somewhere between 5 and 10%. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions on this? Okay. The other thing that will help in that decision with the fund balance is we're working on a long-range plan, a long-range projection, financial long-range projection, and that'll also help you see how it affects future years, because the more you use the fund balance, the more it affects tax increases in the future years. So in summary, as we went through all the object codes and all the savings, all the adjustments, all the cuts, all the reductions, we came up with a total number of $1,914,860. You can see it on the right column near the bottom. So that basically it's adding up all the things that I went over. We've also, you can see the $1 million fund balance about 2/3 of the way down. The other thing that we'd recommend at this point is understanding the politics, who was elected governor, and what's going on. We believe that you safely can put in probably a 2% increase in your basic education funding, which would be about $265,000. You also have some old vehicles that are no longer in use. We recommend that you try to sell those. That's a conversation I had with Mr. Fluke as well. And so that brings the total number to $1,914,000. If you remember, your expenditures over revenues is at 2.7, and so that leaves $852,285 yet to find. Where do we get that? Well, immediately, some of the things that you can look at are your healthcare plan changes. Again, that's something that you would handle in negotiations. We'd recommend that you look at a GISA project for 24-25. Those are projects that can bring you pretty much instantaneously savings in your energy. You can set parameters on your tuition. Again, that's a negotiated item. A 2.5 to 3% tax increase would handle that whole. Secondary extracurricular courses, sometimes you want to take a look at those because maybe they're not as beneficial as they were when you were teaching them 10, 15 years ago. So that's something you can look at. You can look at class size. You can continue, obviously you want to continue to monitor the state subsidy. So the problem was, the only thing I'll tell you about state subsidy, what we know, is that the governor's presenting his budget on March 7th. The legislature has already been told to postpone any vacations in July. So what number they finally settle on will probably be after you approve your budget. And so typically what we recommend is that you budget somewhere halfway between what the governor presents and zero. And so as that comes out in March, Miranda can take a closer look at that, make some recommendations to you, and you can move forward from that. Some other long-term and ongoing things that you can look at is a facility use study. Are you using your current facilities to maximize their best use? There's the debt service lawsuit. We don't know what's going to come of that. Your solicitor probably has a better idea, but we don't know the timing. Is that going to be appealed? Is it, when is that money actually going to arrive? And again, that's a one-time source of revenue, so you need to use that carefully. ESSER positions that are possibly phasing out contracted out services. Those are big decisions and things that you want to study very carefully. And then trying to push as many students back into Dover Cyber School as possible. As far as the tax decision, here's some information that will help you. On the far left column is the percentage increase in taxation. You're currently at 24.307. And the whole, as we talked about right now, is around $800,000. So somewhere between 2 to 3% would be the number if you just wanted to say, okay, we're going to fill that hole with an increase of 2.75, somewhere in that neighborhood, you could probably cover it. And then on the far right, that's the average bill per taxpayer and what the impact it would have on taxpayers individually. That decision is clearly yours. Questions? Discussion?
Thank you for this information. How did you determine the budgeted salary amounts? I see a 1.2 difference from 2022 to 2020, from this school year to next school year.
We basically took the estimated costs that we had and added, for each category, we added a certain percentage. For administration, it was 3%, whether your contracted salaries are already established, I think at 4.89% for your support staff, and then we used 3.5%, which is the county average for next year for your professional staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Kim, thank you very much for all of that information. It's good for us to have now so we can continue to ponder it over the coming months here as we lead into the height of budget season.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, our last presentation, we have our parents from Washington Township.
Thank you for giving us this time. I'm Rachel Maley for the people who don't know who I am. This is my daughter Nora, my youngest daughter, the youngest of 5. She's 13. When Crawltown closed in 2011, she was about this big. She's about 2.5 years old at the time, with her 4 older siblings, 3 of them at least in school. You know, fast forward the whole, transfer of Washington Township students to Northern, the whole fight that we were part of, our families here were part of from the very beginning, the grassroots efforts working alongside the district, hoping to get our township to be able to stay here in Dover because this is our home. I have 3 older children who have already graduated, received an excellent education here. My oldest son has already graduated from college and has a very nice job, and I have 2 still in college. My junior in high school will also get to graduate from Dover because of the deal that Northern has made, allowing students to stay till 2024. There are 4 8th grade students who are kind of stuck in this limbo where they will be allowed to stay, but not to finish. They've been allowed to stay last year and this year, but they won't be allowed to finish here at Dover. Northern is not interested in providing any further help for us to get our children to stay. We, just want to make the point that we have always believed in Dover's academics. We have fought alongside the district. Like I said, we have spoken to newspapers. We've done all that we can to sing the praises of Dover because we believe in the education that our kids are provided here. Our kids are very involved. It's the only home she's ever known is the Dover School District. She used to volunteer with me, way back when. There are truly, we believe in having our kids stay here to finish. We want to see these 8th graders finish like their older siblings did. We want this to be their alma mater, just like it was for the rest of my kids and the rest of their kids. There are, no extra costs. I know we're talking budget tonight, kind of stinks that we're following that presentation. But really, to have these 4 kids, you're not talking added teachers. You're not talking added curriculum. You're not talking added classrooms. All of their academic needs can be met within the classes that we already have. These kids are going to the high school. There's lots of options for classes. So it's not like you have to create a new classroom at a different grade level to accommodate these kids. We already bus our kids. We transport our kids to and from school every day. That was something Northern would not provide. And so we've been doing it. We will continue to do it. We're not asking for that. So truly, there's just no added cost to let these kids stay. They will graduate in 2027. They will get to continue the legacy that was started by their older siblings. We're asking that you make an exception to the current policy, allowing these kids to stay cost-free until they graduate in 2027. We do believe that this exception is warranted, given the unprecedented nature of this situation, and in all likelihood will never be repeated again, probably in Pennsylvania state history for many years to come, hopefully, because it is obviously a hit to the remaining district, and we do understand that. But we really believe in Dover and keeping these kids here. I know that they want to stay, and we're here, one more time to ask. And I think Holly might have a few things she wants to say too.
Hi, my name's Holly Fieser. I've been in countless meetings of these sort with varying faces in both Northern and Dover, and 12 years I'm still standing here, still advocating for my kids. When this all started, my oldest child was a little first, second grader in Crawltown, and now she is on a full ROTC Army scholarship at University of North Georgia, pursuing a career in medicine and nursing. And her home, when she attended Dover, was the FFA program. It grounded her. It gave her the opportunity to dissect and touch body parts, for which I still get text messages from her college labs, which gross me out. But she loves it. She loves the science that was provided here, the strong science program. She received and walked with a cord that said that she took every science class that this high school offered. The tremendous educational opportunities that are at this school district in this county are amazing. Chuck Benton's program for my son is what keeps him coming to this school every day. I'm gonna let that sink in. That CTE program keeps my kid interested in welding, in carpentry. He came home and talked about building this barn. I was like, who are you? This is the difference that this CTE program has made for one child, my child. And now I've got this young bloom standing right here who doesn't want to be standing here as an 8th grader, and she is waiting. She knows Miss Marsh in the FFA program from her older sister. She swims, she plays lacrosse. She volunteered as a varsity swim manager. She is so excited for this program and to go into the CTE program and see what she can get interested in. She can't wait to take the botany and be in the greenhouse. This is the only school district we have ever known. I will drive her here on a bicycle. She can ride a horse here from my farm if that's what it takes to get her to stay in this school district. I believe in the well-rounded education that you as a school board continue to force and put out for our children. I have been on the news. I've been in the newspaper. I have stood up at every PDE. court hearing and deliberation, I have always done what I could do to say that this was a school district worth believing in. I refuted all of Ralph McGregor and his cronies at WTEC meetings. Everything that they would say bad about Dover, I would stand up, much to their chagrin. They hated me, and say everything that I thought that was good about Dover. I still believe it, and I think that we have a future here, and I'm asking you to give my child and the 3 other kids, the 4 of them total, a chance to finish their high school career in the only district that they've ever known. And let us stay in Dover. This is an unprecedented situation, like Rachel said. There are no other, I think there's 1 or 2 other cases like this in the state currently. But I mean, this is like one of these, like, century kind of events. I don't think this school district will ever see that again. And I'm asking you, and you have the power to make a difference in these last 4 children. And I thank you for your time, and I hope that you'll let us stay tuition free. Do you want to say anything? Do you guys want to say anything else? Thank you so much
Yep,
for your
thank you.
time.
Okay. Thank you, folks. Okay. At this time, we'll now move into Board President's communication. We did have an executive session immediately prior to tonight's meeting to discuss item 402, which you see on the agenda, a DAEA Memorandum of Understanding for a High School Student Council Advisor. The board has discussed going back to the association to discuss that agreement and see if we can reach some agreement on where we'd like to stand with that for this year and next year going forward. So that will be coming before us at a later time. Okay, with that, we will then move into our consent agenda items for discussion as we would be voting next week. So now is the chance for the board, administrative team, others as part of the district here to discuss all of these items, ask whatever questions we need to ask for clarification. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cartwright for items 501, I believe, to 505 to really start going down through at this point, and then the board may ask any questions on those items.
Thank you, Mr. President. Starting with 501, the appointment of Mrs. Weaver as board secretary. This is Mrs. Weaver filling the vacancy left by Mr. Ulmer when he resigned back in September. And we need a board secretary. So there's some language in the executive content there that the board can read as well. I'll just go through a couple of things and then I'll stop and let you ask questions if you have them. The 23-24 district calendar is pretty standard. We continue to tweak every year and try to make it better every year, and we do consider the contracts or the agreements of the support staff, the professional staff, and the Act 93, the administrators, to look for days that everyone is required to work throughout the year and the holidays we need to observe, and we do also solicit input from our staff members. And then you'll see an affiliation agreement with York College. This is a little bit different than the articulation agreements that Mr. Benton talks about a lot with CTE. This is brand new, and I've been in conversations with the graduate representatives from the graduate program at York College, and they are looking to partner with Dover to provide a 15% discount in tuition for our teachers. There has been a significant reduction in teachers going into education and teachers coming out with certificates. I have a couple of stats to share with you. Over the last 11 years, there has been a decrease of 64%, 9,500 certificates, Instructional 1 certificates, so that's your very first bachelor certificate. Instructional 2, after 24 credits in 6 years, all teachers, all professional staff members are required to get their permanent certificate or their Instructional 2. There's been a 55% decrease over 11 years, 7,200 fewer certificates coming out than there were 11 years ago. And ed specialists, psychologists, counselors, reading specialists, ESL teachers, social workers, a 52% reduction over the last 11 years. We are losing teachers. So this is an attempt to provide a discount to both individual teachers and the district, because we reimburse tuition credits for our teachers. That is a contractual agreement. So this partnership is looking for ways to increase the number of teachers in the pipeline, the number of individuals coming out and becoming teachers. And it doesn't cost us anything but 2 emails a year to let our teachers know that we're doing this. So I'm asking for that. And then the letter of agreement with the Meadows Psychiatric Center. This is an as-needed situation. We do not ever put a student in a psychiatric center. We don't have that authority or power. Doctors do that. But when a student is in a facility temporarily, we are required to educate them. So this is simply the dollar per hour cost that we would pay if we have a child at the Meadows. And then I think Mr. Fluke is going to address the next 3 items, 505, 506, and 507. There you are.
Evening. Yes, so 505 is for some security upgrades at the high school. It is a panel upgrade just to keep everything current and up to date with the security system. It has a software upgrade with it also and offers a wireless capability. That was purchased to be purchased through a grant, so that would be no funds from the district used for that. 506 is a proposal to put in some panic buttons at the high school. There's 3 of them, and there's 3 remote panic buttons also. And that was put in through the Safe and Healthy Student Grant, so no cost to the district on that also. The track and field record board, that was, the funding for that was put through by Mr. Brandstetter. He worked on that, getting some donations for that, along with putting up the record board itself. The district maintenance staff's going to put that up, and there was a cost there for the lift of a rental and some mounting hardware, which I got to Mr. Brandstetter, and I think he was going to reach out to the people that had actually gave him some funding for that too, to take care of that cost too.
So the only cost to the district would be the maintenance crew who installs the board on the side of the middle school.
Yep, that's correct.
Facing the stadium.
Yes, so that when you come into the stadium, that we can recognize all those students from the past and present and future that will have, records in the track and field events. So when you come in, it'll be there to the left, pretty much right above where the concession stand is now. It'll be mounted right there on the side of the building. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Mr. Fluke. We'll stop there and accept any questions about 501 through 507. Okay, moving on. Mrs. Fazek, did you specifically want to address any of those 3 items from the high school?
Not necessarily, unless there's questions.
Okay. Are there any questions about those 3 high school items, 508, 509, and 510?
Well, yeah, the question I have is, why is I have the prom for 2024 on now instead of...
Sorry, the prom for 2023 was already on a previous one. We have to book the venues out a year in advance. We're trying to keep up with weddings, all of those things.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on those 3 high school items? Then there are 3 field trips. Are there any questions on the 3 field trips? Okay, I think Mrs. Renard would like to talk about her exciting opportunity to go to this conference in California.
Hi, I was nominated by a USDA Pennsylvania state representative to attend the Produce Safe University. It's in, I got to choose which locations I wanted to go to. I just rated them. They selected me for the main one out in Davis, California. So they take you out to the fields, they tromp you through the fields, they teach you all about how to harvest and keep your produce safe. And then it is a train the trainer program, so they do expect me to come back and share my knowledge. It is an all expense paid as far as the flight, the room, the food, things like that are all taken care of. So there is no cost to the district, and I get the opportunity to go out and partake in this. There are only 150 students that are accepted into the program in our country. So I am one of 150 for this school year. So I'm very excited about that. When I go, I will take lots of pictures, and I will make sure that I come back and I update you on all the wonderful things that I learned about keeping produce safe for our program and for other, because it's not just school food service, but it's all about food safety and food service. So, do you have any questions?
I think it sounds like a very exciting opportunity for you, and congratulations.
I'm very
on that honor,
excited.
too.
Would you like to talk about the next conference while you're up there?
Oh, the next one right after that, it is a local state conference. It is a new conference that they put together. It's actually not really a conference, it's more of a workshop. It's just for directors in the state for us to get together and work on leadership skills and be able to network with each other on some of the pressing challenges that we are all facing regarding the food costs, and how that jumped up in the last 2 years with everything that happened with COVID, as well as how we are trying to handle and juggle shortages of labor, as well as negative balances that are creeping up and up and up with the meal program.
And that conference is budgeted in your food service budget,
That is
correct?
budgeted in my food service, and it is a Sunday. You go out Sunday morning, and it's Sunday until Monday afternoon, so it's just one night. But a very intense 24-ish hours.
And a reminder that the food service budget is separate from the general fund.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're
Mrs.
welcome.
Renard. Mr. Weisling, would you like to talk about the PASADA conference, please?
Yes, thank you. PASADA is an acronym for the Pennsylvania State Athletic Directors Association, and like most of our professional organizations or professions, there are organizations that have direct leadership over us, and so PASADA does that for all of the state athletic directors. And so this conference happens once a year, and I've been fortunate enough to attend the last 2 years, in the only years that I've been in this role. And each year, it's like any other professional conference. It's filled with current issues, keynote speakers, opportunities to network, as well as it gives me the opportunity to also take courses that are offered through the National Association of Interscholastic Athletic Administrators and their leadership courses leading to the certification as an athletic administrator. So that is a special designation that you get after taking so many courses and working so many years as an athletic director and applying for it and receiving points on a scale for different activities and leadership and courses and things like that. So this would be my last final opportunity to attend this, to receive my last courses for application to take the test to receive the certification as an athletic administrator, if that makes sense. So it's an annual conference. And it's in Hershey, and it's all day long. In fact, some of the courses are even in the evening for the pre-conference day. But I travel to it every day. I don't stay overnight. There are a lot of, because of the expansiveness of the state and it's held in Hershey, there are a lot of athletic directors who have to travel. So they do provide accommodations right there at the venue, but I just travel to and from that for the day, so I don't have any additional expenses for lodging, and the meals are included in the conference. And this, as Dr. Cartwright pointed out with the food services, this is budgeted in the athletic budget for some professional development.
Professional development is also a part of the Act 93 agreement and provided for in the Act 93 agreement. Thank you, Dr. Weisling.
Thank you.
Are there any questions about the conferences?
Okay.
I think Mrs. Jacoby would like to talk about the job description update.
So we have an updated job description on the board agenda for the gifted support teacher The main items that were changed is that back in May of 2019, when it was last reviewed, we had a section there for the school assistant assessment coordinator, and those responsibilities have been removed, as the gifted teachers are not the sole responsibility for that anymore. And we added one additional responsibility under the gifted support teacher section, which was provide enrichment opportunities to students as appropriate and requested by the building principal and director of exceptional children. So that was the only two changes that were made from that job description to get it updated. The only other thing I wanted to talk about in my section is I did want to recognize the retirees. We have a number of retirees on here, 8 teachers and 1 support staff, with a total of 230 total years that are on the board to be retired. So congratulations to all of them.
Are there any questions on anything from 518 through 523, Mrs. Jacoby's department?
I guess my question in regards to the job description change, when a job description change comes up in the middle of the year, does that person get notified?
We are currently reviewing all of our job descriptions. A number of our job descriptions are out of date. Right now, we don't necessarily send the new job description to individual staff members, but we can start doing that. We can send them a hard copy via email so that they're notified of it.
So are you thinking that the changes are so small that it really doesn't affect how they operate?
Yes, if it changes how they operate, we normally get them involved to at least review the job description. A lot of what we've been approving the last couple of months are minor changes. So this was actually removing a whole section that they don't even currently do.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. The next section is all business office, 524 through 531.
Could Mrs. Weaver walk through the treasurer's report with us and for the public knowledge? You know, we all have the actual report here in front of us, but maybe walk down through, provide highlights of information. You know, we just talked about the whole budget process, so maybe we could discuss where we're standing from a treasurer's standpoint. Or Kim and Darcy, I don't know, you're so new, but.
I prepared this one. What I noted in the general fund report, both revenues and expenditures, very much in line with what we've been showing you, with where we've estimated expenses and revenues as part of what we've been presenting the last 2 months for budget. So I really didn't see anything. I saw a piece of good news with earned income tax. I had mentioned in January that we were very conservative, even though we saw through December that earned income tax revenue was running about 5% ahead of the previous year, based on some caution from the director of the Tax Bureau with some concerns over the economy. We kind of backed off and only used 2%. It continued. I just took a look today at where dollars came in for the month of January, and that came in about $30,000 higher than the previous year. So again, I think that's certainly something that Miranda can look at over the next couple months and see if that warrants some increase in the estimated for this year and budget for next year, which would certainly help the shortfall there. The other area that with your food service team, with Miranda and Mrs. Renard, we've taken a deeper dive into the food service fund in the last month. As you'll hear from the auditors next week. I'm not going to get into the audit, but you're coming off of a very profitable year with your food service fund last year. You had with the subsidies basically providing free lunches for all students. You had a captive audience. So moving into this year has just been a little bit bumpier with food costs going up and trying to keep participation up. But I think your team here has some good ideas of how to turn that around, and that'll be a focus over the next couple months as well.
Darcy, I know Kelly had just mentioned about increasing negative balances. Where do we stand from a debt standpoint in food service, with the negative balance? Or
$17,000.
17. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions related to those items? Okay.
I'll take over here at 5:32 with second reading of the policies that we discussed last month. There are several of them. I did provide the board with a summary of all the changes of all of those, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. All right, I think Mrs. Weaver and Mr. Fluke might have an update on the lease agreement for outside organizations. No, you can.
We met with DAC leadership. It was a very good conversation. We got to hear the history with DAC. We got to explain where the district's coming from. We listened to them, and it was a good conversation. As of right now, I think that they don't feel like they're interested in the lease agreement. We did talk about some things where we could have some compromises on both sides if it was decided that they may participate in the agreement. But as of right now, they don't feel it's going to be beneficial for them.
Thank you, Mrs. Weaver. Any questions?
Yeah, do we know how much they would have to pay? I just kind of would like an idea of our youth organizations, and I'm not talking about DAC. I mean, I know they've come up, but I don't want them to be the burden, like that, that they think that they're the burden of this policy, because it's really impacting a lot of our youth sports organizations. So how much would it cost them under the current policy to run their program?
If they accepted the lease, or you mean under the current?
Under the current policy, the new policy that we approved.
I can certainly look into it and get back to you.
Yeah. That would be good. Thanks. And do we account for our youth, like, do we account for any rental fees, rental usage in our revenue? Is that a line item in our revenue for the budget? How much is it? Do we know? It's like
it
50?
is. Mrs. Brenner-Smith included that last month in her presentation,
remember
and it was a very small number, maybe
Like
5,000?
30, I think it was.
I think it was 5,000.
10,000.
10,000.
And that was based on what the previous year's revenue was.
So that's our 2023, 2024?
That's the estimate for 22, 23 is 10,000.
Okay.
I may have bumped that up a bit to 15,000, which may have been a little bit aggressive for 23, 24.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see how, like, the usage of our facilities. I mean, is that even for outside organizations too? Like, I'm not talking about youth sports, but like, do we have a record of who's rented what, when, and what that? So you're basing that 10,000 or now 15,000 off of actual numbers.
Right, looking back at actual and having some conversations with Zach Gump before he left.
Okay.
And my understanding from him was that most of that revenue was billing for costs incurred for custodial services.
Okay. Are there any outstanding invoices that haven't been paid yet from any outside organizations?
Not that I'm aware of, but I could check with the accounting department on that.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, the last two items then were the minutes for the January 10th and 17th meetings. Are there any questions on any of the items in the minutes that are published there for you?
Nate, I actually missed an item that I wanted to ask some questions
Sure.
about. 526, the obsolete listings.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to know, are they mostly out of date? I've noticed a lot of them were readers, and there was quite a few books. Are they just out of date because I saw that the dates were listed beside them?
They are some very, very old materials, yes.
So the social studies curriculum, is that going to be replaced with the same curriculum, just newer books? How does that work?
Books are not curriculum, so the book is a resource that
Okay.
supports the curriculum. So we're writing curriculum for every subject right now, every grade level. But I can't answer the social studies book question. Dr. Hauk can probably do that.
We don't anticipate purchasing social studies books. We are writing curriculum, and the teachers are pulling resources. In the day and age now, when we have documents at our disposal, I think teachers are writing their own curriculum and using their own resources, and instead of a book. So I don't anticipate us purchasing a textbook for social studies.
So as far as curriculum goes, every teacher is writing all their own curriculum? It's not going to be the
No.
same across the grade?
No, grade level teachers are working together and subject area teachers are working together. Departments and grade levels. Subject areas.
Okay.
I want to, the form that is used to, for the obsolete book protocol form, I guess, it seems like there's a lot of handwritten notes and some some columns that are like hand created to add additional information. Is there any way we could update this form? Yes. To include why it's being made obsolete, where it's coming from? Is all of this always associated with the curriculum, or are they books or curriculum found or?
No, a few months ago, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Mr. Gump and/or Mr. Ulmer had some bigger items. I'm not remembering what they were, but it's not always curriculum or books.
This particular form says obsolete book protocol. List the books that you want to deem obsolete. It'd just be nice to know where the books are coming from and why they're being deemed obsolete. I think that would just.
We can certainly change forms and make it more electronic.
Okay, thanks.
Systematize.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on any of the items 501 to 535?
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up, but York Adams Academy, just so you're aware, did not raise their tuition rate for this coming year. And I think Dr. Cartwright probably got the budget sent to her from York Adams Academy. So there won't be any fee increase to York Adams Academy.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, that takes us into discussion items, category 6. First reading of policies.
Okay, you'll see a list of 3 policies there for revision for first reading this month. And again, on Friday in my weekly update, I sent a summary of the changes to the board, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So these will come back to the board in March for approval, correct?
On March 14th, we'll have our second reading, and then on March 21st will be the vote, yes.
Thank you. Questions or discussion there? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to 602 and 603. I believe, Mrs. Meese, you had maybe asked for these to be added to the agenda, the social emotional learning and policy 707, use of school facilities.
So the social emotional learning, I think it was back in maybe September. We had a presentation on the 10 programs that are used what school, what grade level they're used at, and what the goals are of each of those programs. And it was really laid out. It was a nice presentation, very well laid out. You know, what buildings they're used in, what grade levels, and what the goals of those are. And then after that, we approved a few more programs. So we're up over 10 programs that we're using. And I would just like the board to be updated on those goals, like maybe revisit what those goals are for those programs and where we're at with them.
In your yellow folder, you'll see a handout like this, and Dr. Houck can give you a little information on what's on there for starters.
Okay.
So, and not all of these are social emotional learning. Some of these are also mental health. So, and I'm going to kind of talk to you about, but they kind of fall in this big umbrella.
Okay.
The first thing that I want to say is that you'll see where it says 7% set aside in the funding source.
Yep.
That is a grant. And I want to just remind the board that I have to spend this money on social emotional learning and mental health. I am not allowed to spend it on anything else. So it has to be spent on that, right? Now we can determine for ourselves what exactly we're going to spend it on.
Sorry,
yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
ask questions as I go?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
So that money, can that also be used for security, like for the cameras that we want to replace?
No.
So it's just,
social emotional learning and mental health. That's it.
okay.
Yeah. So
We can't use that for panic bars or
No.
any, that doesn't go along?
that doesn't count. Nope. But we did pay for the panic bars with another grant.
I know,
So,
yeah, I know,
but no.
I was just using that. I thought that we
Yes.
could use security measures as part of the social emotional.
Unfortunately, no.
Wouldn't they feel safer?
Yeah, but it doesn't count. Sorry. Okay, so I want to explain kind of what some of these are. DESA and Satchel Pulse, those are not programs, those are screeners, okay, and I'll tell you what that means. DESA is a screener that is done by the teachers in kindergarten, first, and second grade. And what they do is they sort of provide like a rating of each of their students based these
coming in to learn about our CTE program. Have there been like a handful of them to learn about our CTE program and how to implement it? You said like Gettysburg and.
Yeah, Redline, yes. They've been administrators, teachers coming in just to see what
Kind of see what we're doing, and
Yes.
that's cool. Congratulations.
Hanover too. When I was principal, he came and helped
Oh,
us.
okay. That's great. Good for you. That's great. The comprehensive plan, there's no SEL in that. Is that just curriculum, comprehensive plan? Can you, like, what are just scores and?
There was no, I hesitate to say this because I don't know what the new requirements are going to be.
Oh,
There was no requirement for me to put that in there.
Okay.
And that was our decision to not put that in there.
Okay.
We didn't feel that was as much of our priority as what we have in there.
Okay. Kim, where's Kim? Did he leave? No, there you are. The district's budget for salaries and benefits is like 63% of our total expenditures. Is that typical of a district? Are we within range? Are we high, low? We're like right in the middle?
Yep, right in the middle.
Okay,
There, I've seen them as high as 67% and as low as 60, so,
okay,
yeah.
okay. I'm done. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, with that, that brings us to our last public comment period. Again, a 30-minute period for items on or off of the agenda. This is 2 minutes per speaker, so if you would like to comment on anything, come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is David Conley, and I signed in. My address is on record. At one of our January meetings, whether it was a plan that we revised the public comment policy to allow the comments to come after the planning presentations. And I noticed in the new policy proposal that you're retaining the exact same practice we have now. When you ask us to comment before any proposals are made or briefed, what are we commenting on? We have nothing to comment. So I'm going to be constrained now to 2 minutes for my entire comments for the evening. The next thing that I'd like to address are the minutes. I've asked this a number of times that we publish the minutes or the draft minutes before you go to a vote on approving the minutes from the previous meetings. Because the public makes comments on those things and the content of the public's comments are contained in those minutes, according to Title 65, Chapter 7, Section 706, the public inherently has a right to see those before they are published officially and acted upon. Next, on the budget presentations, under Object 600, there were two categories that were omitted in the discussion. That was $240,000 cost for curriculum services. My question in general is, what is curriculum services doing if what we're doing is asking the teachers to write their own curriculum? So I'd be interested in knowing that. We also have maintenance supplies of $372,000, which is a pretty stiff number, which is just not enough to prevent us from raising taxes, which raises my concern once again.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Anybody else?
Kara Hetrick, 2554 Danielle Drive. I'm here to talk about DAC. Just kidding. No, I'm not. I'm the parent of a 4th grader and a 7th grader. Not only do my children attend Dover, but I myself am in the schools often as a classroom volunteer and a PTO member. Some weeks I'm there every day. So I feel qualified to speak on what is happening in our district. It was implied at the last board meeting that inappropriate content was being taught in kindergarten, things that, quote, kindergarten ears shouldn't hear. This couldn't be further from the truth. There is nothing inappropriate being taught in our kindergarten. To say this not only insults our excellent kindergarten teachers, it insults all the parents who send their children to Dover schools. I'm proud and thankful for the education my children received in kindergarten, especially for my older son. His kindergarten year was life-changing. We have good teachers in these buildings and we have good programs, and I don't think we say it enough. Changed his life that kindergarten year. It is very concerning to have board members who are publicly denigrating public school education. Regardless of your personal feelings, I would hope all board members would be supportive of the value of public schools. There's also been a lot of talk about social emotional learning, and as a parent who is in the classroom all the time, I can tell you for a fact there is no grooming happening. Social emotional learning is just a fancy term. It's just a fancy term. It's just helping kids learn manners and helping them improve their behavior. That's all it is. In a perfect world, kids would be learning these skills at home, but they're not. Not everybody has a perfect family anymore. And so appropriate behaviors have to be taught. They have to take the time to teach these kids appropriate behaviors so that learning can take place. Dover certainly has many issues and we need to start working together to solve them, but it seems like lately we get distracted with buzzwords and swim clubs. I urge the board to look inward and examine their personal motivations and biases. And so my Dover, see what's really happening in our schools, see it with your own eyes. We need substitute teachers. The process for emergency certification is easy. We need you. There are lots of open positions within the district. Be an employee, a volunteer, be a part of the solution.
Thank you, Mrs. Hetrick.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our future meeting announcements. We do have our meeting next Tuesday, February 21st at 7:00 p.m. in this room. So I will ask all of you to go home to your spouses and apologize for not being there for Valentine's Day and promise that you'll take them out to a very nice dinner another night. But at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.